now.
Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. Today we're going to see how to deal with the declining China on the LAC or IOR or the LC along with Pakistan. In a larger sense, it's not nitpicking. And to do all this analysis with me is General Narayanan. Rajiv, good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. We're embarking on something nice. And that too on the tail of the hypersonic launch.
Yes. I saw that.
And
That's the new one which you have utilized.
yeah, there's a new one. And, that puts us on a different pedestal.
Yes.
And I was just telling, everyone yesterday where I did a thing on the hypersonic shock which we have given to China, that India's strength has grown. With the plethora of missile tests, meaningful missile tests which we did over the past 1 year, the kind of infrastructure which we have built, the kind of international cooperation and Malabar exercises and everything you've built. And this is all despite the fact that we are the fastest growing economy. In the same time, you see China has declined. 1 year back when we said slow decline of China, the slow collapse of China, it was actually prophetic when we did that, video. Everything is coming true now. They are into problems. Their economy is spluttering, coughing every day, like it's as if sucking in air from Delhi, right? And okay, and then
That's a nice analogy, sir.
yeah, it's absolutely like that. And then now it's very clear that the population decline is irretrievable. It's just going down. They have problems of unemployment. They have a military which I think they've overspent and might not be that effective, right? And they're generally overstretched. The BRI has gone too far and maybe out of control, though they make a lot of noise about it, right? And now, to top it all, they're about to enter Pakistan and deploy their soldiers. And when they deploy their soldiers, they'll get hit 4.5 times and end of their, what shall I say? Then they'll become the toothless dragon. But then we also had this, arrangement on the LAC, which we've discussed, where patrolling has recommenced and things like that. And we have to deal with them. In fact, we have to deal with them a little more carefully than what we did earlier. So, in this context, decline of China and how to deal with them operationally, I think we need to formalize the way what the decline is all about and then see what we have to do. So, I'll defer the whole thing to you. Please take on.
Thank you, sir. Welcome to be back on your show. And very rightly, sir, today we are it's stark in our face, despite all what number of people may say that no, it's not declining. So that will be the first part of mine to explain why we are saying that China is declining. And then what is the problems that will come up and what obviously what will happen, and some lessons for us ourselves. What should we do to avoid the trap into which China has fallen and to keep ourselves secure? So if you could go to that slide, sir. Yes.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yes. So a declining China. So basically, I'll tell what are the indications, the impact. There was a decline and breakup of Soviet Union. And now, so why are we saying that decline of China is going to have an impact on global economy? What do we see reading the tea leaves? What is going to happen to PRC? And we look at, like, when any resident power declines and there is another rising power, there is what is known as the Thucydides trap, where it goes back to Thucydides when it was Athens and Sparta. Sparta was the resident power and Athens was coming up and they fought. China looks upon it as the resident power and India is the rising resident power. So where will it hit out? Because there are other emerging powers on its eastern seaboard, and what are the lessons that we can draw from? So what are the indicators? These are the some of the indicators that I have given. There will be many more, but I thought that these would be the. So I've called it the slow death of its dream. The dream is over. Whatever they had dreamt of is over, and it was very clear since February this year when we had done, before the G20, we had done the Voice of Global South. Suddenly, the China, which was talking of G2 and great power relations, suddenly now talks about it as a developing power. What changed? And that they are part of Global South. Till then, they used to look down on the Global South and talking of great power relations between US and China, of how to manage the world. And that is the fall. And that is why it's a slow death of his dream. So I will look at US PRC GDP, the impact of Shenomics. We got Deng Xiaoping left something and Mr. Xi has brought in something else. Then there is this declining productivity, increasing capital output ratio, I'll explain. Declining demography, General Shankar sir has already spoken a lot about it. I'll explain in brief. What is the impact of the dictatorial state control on the demoralized restive youth, and what is the psychological impact? General Shankar had also pointed that out in one of his talks. I'll refer to that. And lastly, I would talk on the inner power struggles within the CPC, because it appears as if there is a struggle for the alpha dragon. Whenever there is a dragon, they travel in a group, and there is one capo di tutti capi of that dragons, and it's called the alpha dragon. So within CPC also that is the case, and in fact that is the case in any political system. There is one person who becomes the alpha dragon and he is the boss. So what is it that is going on? So let us look at this. So this is the top slide is showing the economists. So Goldman Sachs in 2011 had predicted by 2026 China would be at parity with the US. Then by 2022 they had shifted it to 2035, while OECD in 2021 mentioned 2030, and Capital Economics by 2023 was showing that 2041. But the latest which is coming out is, thank you, this is the red line. It is not going to cross it. That it is, this dotted black line is the actual performance where it is with respect to the US. So that dream of crossing US is gone, finished.
In
Michael
fact,
Beck, pardon?
this part which you said, even the Japan Center of Economic Research has put it out.
Put it out. And Michael Beckley, who is an economist, the World Knowledge Forum is, for the people who don't know, that is held in South Korea since 2009. Regularly, South Korea holds this forum. So the latest one, he has shown this slide, and this slide he has said, as he has taken from their Bureau of Statistics, the Chinese Bureau of Statistics, as a percentage. It was rising, and from 2021 it's starting to collapse. It's gone down. The Chinese themselves are saying that they will never be able to catch up with the PRC. So link it to what I said. From the beginning of this year, they've already started selling we are a developing country. All that dream of being a developed country and great power relations is over. Now, what has happened? Impact. So I'll give you two slides. The first one is theirs themselves, the rise of China 79 to 2029. Now, what has happened is, this is where Deng Xiaoping came up and he started opening up, and I won't say totally opened up. State control was there, but limited state control, permitted private players. A benefit was there, because what people forget is during the Great Leap Forward, a lot of bureaucrats and all were sorted out and purged and sent out. So when he took power, there was a gap in the bureaucracy. If you have a state control economy, then the bureaucracy is needed to be able to tell and control the people that this is what you can do. But agar wo bureaucracy hi nahi bacha aapka, so there is a limited opening up, and that is how it rose. And it rose, it peaked beyond, from 2001, it went by leaps and bounds, because 2001 was when US forced their entry into WTO. Why do I say forced? Till date, they do not follow any rules and regulations that WTO wants them to follow. Yet, because of the cheap labor and cheap everything, the US and the West wanted them, created them as the main global supply chain hub, and from there, so that at cheap rates, they would get all their things and make a lot of profit by selling it at very high rates to other countries. That is how these MNCs made. And here comes the cross, where Xi Jinping took over and he destroyed Deng Xiaoping's open market and collective decision making and everything, and he went back to Maoism. And this is the decline. And they have given two lines. One, this dotted one with dots, is the possible one, which they are fearing. And the dash one is, they say, is likely. Okay. Now I go back to what Michael Beckley had given in his talk in World Knowledge Forum. The big lines on top, the red ones, is what the Chinese have said is their economic figure, and you can see the GDP going down, going up just after it opened up, and then it has crashed. 2021 suddenly, when 20 December, when he suddenly removed the zero COVID, the people ran for productivity, and thereafter it's collapsed because there was no market, and it just collapsed. The lower figure is the one that the economists have given, studying how much of consumption of power and resources has taken place in this period by the Chinese. And they predict that whatever the Chinese are saying today of their economy, and any figure they say, is actual figure is 20% less. Now,
Maybe more. Maybe
value. Now, maybe more. They're saying
Maybe
at
more.
least 20% less at a conservative figure. That itself is a big whammy. That means if he is saying that his economy is 18 trillion, they are talking of his economy being anywhere between 12 to 15 trillion. And a lot of people say it's much less, maybe about 9 to 10 trillion. So it is a major blow that has taken place as far as his economy is concerned. And the other thing which
one more point I want to add in this, even if you take it as say 14, 15 trillion, or give it to them, there's a lot of dead economy within China.
The bigger problem becomes the debt to GDP ratio shoots up.
Okay.
It really shoots up now.
Shoots up. And what happened? What is this? Complete your property sector with those 80 million houses which are, empty. They contributed to your economy, but no more. It's just dead. Similarly, your high-speed railways which they have built, their return of in fact, not return of investment. Their occupancy is only 25%.
Sir,
so whatever it is,
one of the talks, I think, aapke isme, I went to Shanghai, Sichuan, and I had to go to 2018. So I took the bullet train. I said, let me go by the bullet train. We have heard a lot about it. In my coach, which could seat 72, it was a stretched long coach. Seating of 72, we were total of 8 people in there. 8 people in a coach of 72. I don't know what was there in front or back. There was hardly anybody when I went to catch that train.
And it has remained so.
5 or 6 coaches were there. There was hardly anybody on the platform. No one.
Right? So a lot of their thing is dead. And that dead GDP doesn't produce anything. It doesn't take the overall GDP up. And end of story. So even this 10 to 15 trillion, as they say, I think about 25% of that is dead. It's just weighing down like an anchor. So that's how it is. Yeah, please go ahead.
So then they have done a study on the productivity again. If you look at the annual growth of total factor of productivity, except for 2021, because December 2020 suddenly removed zero COVID, so all the factories started. So they had some potential for growth. After that, it has gone negative actually. If you look at from the time he has taken over 2012 onwards, it's generally been in the negative. And the other factor, which is a double whammy, is what is called the incremental capital output ratio. Now, what it means is how much if I'm producing X, how much capital I need to put in to produce that X. The input capital is growing. The moment it starts growing, that means you're spending more to produce less. And that's a double whammy. And this is the indicators from their own Bureau of Statistics. Then we have spoken a lot about this. The adverse WAP is working age population versus the old, the ratio. The ratio is collapsing. What was supposed to take place by 2020 is already taking place by 2030. There used to be a time when they imposed that strict, under Tang Xiaoping, the strict one-child policy, that they had brought it in by 79, but they imposed it in the early 80s. As per their figures, they claim that about 12 to 15 working age population per old person was the ratio. Today, as per their statistics, is 2:1, and as per the other statistics is reverse, 1:2. That you will have one working age population for every two old people to look after. And how is it coming out? Like, one is this, all the Nikki Asia had brought out that a whole lot of pre-primary and primary schools have been shut. And the other report, which I have not placed here, Jan Shankar had also covered in his talk, is that a lot of these schools are being converted into old age homes and people to geriatric care. Now that tells you the decline here. And moment you have a dictatorial state control, when you have all these things going on, then you have a joblessness. Like I mentioned earlier, productivity has gone down. The youth, like we said, was tankping, work to rule, went to Bailan, let it rot, now run shui. Those who can run are running away. Those who can't, Sir had mentioned is one of his videos, lone knife attacks, running over pedestrians by cars and SUVs.
2 days back I did it. 2 days back.
Yes, you did that. And it is somebody who's 21 years old, somebody who's over 60 years old. You can't say that it is one age who is being affected. Everybody is being affected. Old is affected. There is no pensions that are coming up. He doesn't know what to do. He's disgusted with life. Some may be doing it, I don't know, that if I do this, I go to jail, at least I'll get 2 to 3 meals there and a place to stay. They'll look after me. I'll get food. They may beat me up and all. At least I'll get something to eat. Now, this is actually going to hamper them a lot, because the future of the nation is your youth. Now, if your youth are demoralized, how are you going to look after 10, 20 years down the line? And remember, we are talking today, and every year he's bringing in almost about 15 million graduates into the streets with no jobs. Is just going to add on.
I just want to add 2 points to this. For the first time, probably in all, last week, not really last week, about 15 days back, he's admitted in QC. QC is their internal letter, which is very, the magazine, which is very selectively circulated. Xi Jinping, for the first time, has said they have a population problem, and he's spoken about it. And this got reported 4 days back in South China Morning Post. finally, after all these years of hedging, all that, they have now started admitting they have a problem. Okay? And this is something huge for China. When
Very
people have
huge.
to understand it. Every nation is made of people. If you don't have people, you don't have nation. You can't have a nation. Your nation can't be made of, property. You can't be a nation made of high-speed rails and robots or drones. Your nation is made of people. So people गायब हो रहे हैं China में. That's the first thing. The second thing which General Narayanan touched about is, productivity going down and, your old age factor going up, joblessness, X, Y, Z. Now, how do you connect it to the normal day-to-day life? You see, that's the way one has to look at it. And this is something which I read today, just about 1 hour back. And this is from South China Morning Post. Anyone wants to open it and have a look. When I was reading this article, it hit me. 700 million people in China, their per capita income is only $249, which is $249 is in a year $3,000. That's all. 700 million people. Okay? And out of this 700 million people, nearly 400 million don't have insurance. Anything happens to them, there's no insurance, job insurance. So you see, our per capita, they say is around 2,000 in our country, 2,000, 2,500, depends on which you see, which magazine you write and which forum you read from. So what's the big difference between a normal Chinese and a normal Indian?
Nothing. Because if you convert that 249 is less than $1,500.
Yeah.
It's less than 15 or
So-
3. Conversion rate is 3. He's held it at 3 yuan per dollar, which gives you this much, $1,500.
So let's not. I mean, this whole imagery which they've built is, and I'm going to put this out tomorrow. I'm in fact planning the 2 videos I'm going to do. One is on demography tomorrow, and the second is increasing social unrest. What General Narayanan said, knife attacks. If you
And that
thought
night
that
rides
what
you
he-
mentioned about,
night
the
ride,
crowd of night rides going for some
Riders.
soup or something.
okay, and day before yesterday, after I put out that video, there was another attack of a chap. He rammed into children in a car.
They were outside the school.
School,
Primary
outside the school. Yes. So if you see, there is something happening in China, which how does this see? After all, so far, Xi Jinping and company have been saying, "Oh, ours is a safe country, America is a violent country," and things like that. That's gone. I mean, one has to remember that's gone. Now you're going to see more of these problems coming up, right? And this is a very, 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 very important slide which General Narayanan is showing. Okay, this encapsulates, it's the hinge on which China is declining.
And the problem I would add to what you're saying is, sir, a lot of people will say, no, Japan is also growing gold and Germany is also growing gold. What people have to realize is they became rich before they became old.
Yeah.
Here he hasn't even been able to reach a middle income level and he's becoming old.
And the rate of decline and rate of getting, a demographic decline is the fastest in human history,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, just to think that the costliest place to raise a child today is China. And I've told you the per capita income, $249.
The other point I would place here is, despite all this, as per the defense analysts and specialists, not looking at what China officially gives out, but adding on what all other countries add into their defense budget, the defense budget is increasing. It's just a little less than what the US spends. US spends 840 billion. He is over 700 billion. And he's facing all these problems, yet he's doing that. There is something radically wrong in his macroeconomic calculation. He's doing exactly like what Pakistan is doing,
Yeah, he's heading
spending
there
more
only.
on defense and leaving the people to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead.
Next is the biggest problem CPC is facing is the struggle. I have termed it as the alpha dragon space. Mao era, Mao was the alpha dragon. Deng era, Deng was the alpha dragon, but he brought in 8 elders, and along with him, the 8 people were there. So they were central advisory commission. So there was a dispersed power because he was very anti that one person and everything hinges around one person. During Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao era, they didn't have a central advisory committee, but that was when they started creating the leading small groups for various things. So there is a dispersed policy making. They brought in experts into this leading small groups. They improved on the advisory committee. They felt since the economy is expanding, you need professionals to now guide China forward in their policies. Communist Party professionals. So in whatever limited way, yes, they started growing. And here comes Xi. He became the alpha dragon, destroyed everything. And today we have done shows on it where it indicates that in his third term, it appears that either his wings have been clipped or he has some health issues, because there has been a 180 degrees U-turn in some of the policies that he had laid down. There is a question of, is there a new Gang of Four? Because the people who are calling the shots within the party are Kai Chi, Wang Huning, Li Qiang, who is the premier, and his wife, Peng Liyuan. Kai Chi has been his de facto aide camp right from the days of Zhejiang days. Throughout, he has been with him. He looks after the coordinating office, the general office of the Communist Party. So Mao also faced the same thing from 72 to 76 when he was weak, when his fourth wife, along with 3 people, ran the Gang of Four, and Deng Xiaoping had to fight. Deng Xiaoping was supported by the others within the party, and he fought the Gang of Four, and it took him about, after Mao died, about 3 years to gain control, and 79 onwards, he became the head of the Communist Party. Now, Mao and CPC had always said the power flows from the barrel of the gun. General Shankar and I have also spoken about it. General Shankar independently also in his talks has spoken about it, about the way Deng Xiaoping would not step down from the chairmanship of the CMC, how Jiang continued. It was only Hu Jintao who handed over at the same time. And today, when this is happening, there is enough evidence to say that Chang Zhuzhia, who is considered his blood brother, who is the vice chairman, calls the shots in the CMC. Who's there in the PAP? And who is supporting? Is there anyone coming up against this Gang of Four? Because why I'm saying it is the general office of the CMC, where he had brought in his own another aide who he had for 12 years. That chap was running the general office in the CMC, has been sacked and sent as the commandant of some vague school, and he's been demoted and sent there. And there is a lieutenant general handpicked who is Chang Yujia's man, who's been placed there. The Northern Theatre Command and the Southern Theatre Command, Eastern Theatre Command. These two are Chang Yujia's. Central Theatre Command is with Chang Yujia. Only the Southern and the Western are people who owe their allegiance to Xi Jinping. This is the structure within the CMC. So, who is this new person who's going to come up? Who after Xi Jinping? We really don't know, because his successors he has already sacked. The first person who was there was Sun Genkai. Before his second term, he threw him in jail. This term, the 2 people who they're looking at was Hu Chunhua and Chin Miner. They're not even in the Politburo. They're in the Central Committee. They're not even in the Politburo. Who comes? How are you going to run this government? Because there are no experts left. At least the LSGs had experts. Our champion Xi Jinping has become the head of all the LSGs. He dictates the policies. So this is a big void at the moment which is coming up, who next. And that is why uh, I'll come to what the problems could come. Keep this in mind, that we really don't know who next, who's this next figure who will come, what type he is, what is going to happen. Will he have a smooth move, or will it be again like what Tang Xiaoping had to do, a 3 year struggle before he took charge? But while we are at it, this decline has a direct impact on the global economy. Because if there is a struggle, that means there is going to be an internal struggle. It has got to have a direct impact on the Chinese economy even more. When the USSR collapsed, it did not have any impact on global economy because globalization had not taken place and they were not connected anywhere. USSR was not connected anywhere to any of the Western institutions or countries. So PRC is deeply integrated into the global economy. Many nations, including us, we have our dependencies on PRC. That's all said and done. Fine. There is a trade war going on between the US and West with China. That is the chip war. That is a high-tech war. As far as the low and medium technology items are concerned, it still is a major global supply chain hub. Let us not wish that away. And unless alternate hubs are developed, this declining China would have a major flux in the global economy. Everybody will get impacted. Let's be clear on that. So what are the alternate futures? CPC succeeds in clipping the wings, and then they nominate somebody and CPC, something happens. But what will happen in CPC? Who's going to be supported? That means there's going to be a power struggle within CPC. Or there is a rise of an aristocrat and he curbs the CPC. Again, there's going to be a power struggle. Or if you look at socialistic democracy or a democratic China, which is what the youth want after having spoken to the Taiwanese, again, there's going to be disruption. So whichever of these futures come up or any other future comes up, PRC faces an uncertain future with a period of internal flux. And this internal flux would impact the global economy. And this would happen not immediately. As it is, if they try to remove Xi Jinping, there will be loss of face for the CPC. I predict when the next term is going to start. That is the period closer to that. So you have about 4-5 years, which is where this flux will increase. The flux is already there. The flux will increase. So you have to start, for us, we have to start looking at our alternates. What are you going to do? Now, if there is a snake, I like that what you showed, I think today only, sir.
Yeah, today.
Between the eagle and the Chinese have shown themselves as a snake. When the snake gets cornered, what does it do? Fan marta. It bites. So this is the curse of the Thucydides trap, which the PRC, and let's be clear, we have spoken about it, General Shankar and I, General Shankar himself, whatever problems they are facing is self-generated by Xi Jinping. There were no external pressures to generate this. This is generated by himself. So now where will PRC hit out? The LAC, Eastern Seaboard, Taiwan, Philippines, or would it be the Indian Ocean? So what is it? Will CPC seek revenge? This is an AI generated image within China of when they did the deal in Eastern Ladakh. Okay. So will CPC seek revenge for loss of face in Eastern Ladakh? Or will he go towards the east? Now this, on the eastern side, this map I have taken from New York Times, the heat map. Over the year, they have created a heat map as to how many times, and the red line show how many times the ships, the darker the red, the more bigger that thing is, more number of ships have crossed over and intimidated the other country. And you see from 21, 22, this is 23, the 24 one is still evolving. It is even more red than 23. Is he going there? But then, with a stronger quad under Trump, she and CPC face a Hobson's choice. And that is where I say for us, see, Mao had always said, you have to contest your primary threat and you must manage your secondary threat. At the moment today, having done the deal, yes, we are not pulling out. Army chief has said we are not pulling out from the LAC so soon. We are not pulling out from the NAC. The Chinese are going back. Our Air Force chief has also said they are not pulling out their assets from along the LAC. You are going to be deployed the way you are. That done and the deal done. The reason I say it is he looks on you as today a secondary threat. And the eastern seaboard with growing footprints of China, of US and Trump coming into power, he looks at the eastern seaboard as his primary threat. So he will seek to manage you. How will he manage you? He will pose more internal challenges for you. There are plenty of fissures, we have discussed about it at length, that we have within our country. He is going to utilize that. Let's be clear. And Democrats are going to help him do that. And will he try? He may try to create problems for you in the Indian Ocean, visit of various ships, visit of his survey ships to various places. Mauritius, Maldives is there, Sri Lanka is there, now Bangladesh is there, Pakistan is there. That he'll continue. But it is the internal challenge threat I feel is going to be more for you than any mischief he would like to do in the near term. Near term is 4 to 5 years. Beyond that, everything is on the table. That depends on how he survives and what he manages to do on the eastern seaboard. So what are the lessons? The first thing is, don't sow your dream. You have given a vision 2047. That's very nice. Please take steps to ensure that this dream of yours does not go sour. And the first and foremost is you have to look after and ensure the modernization and capability development of your security forces. That is your internal and external security, because only they can give you the stable environment. And you are facing threats. We are saying collapsing China, Pakistan is collapsing, Bangladesh is also collapsing. So threats, all three sides you're getting. So you got to be careful. The other thing is, people keep saying, will you be the next China? Let us not be the next China. Let us be a strong Bharat, a strong India. That is better. Learn from the mistakes that the Chinese have. And what is this? Maintain a balance between internal consumption and exports. Don't just eye exports. Number two, don't please miss the low and medium tech production under the hope and push for high tech. High tech aata rahega, uski jagah apni hai. Low and medium tech has a massive market the world over. Look for that. Both run in parallel, right? Infra. You need your infra. If you're saying you will grow, good. You need your ports. So those 3 ports that you're going in, Vizhinjam and near Visakhapatnam and the Galathia in your Greater Andamans, go the whole hog. You need them, and all the other ports, your railway line, your electricity grid. You look at conserving your water. How can you regenerate your water? Because more and more factories you place, more water. The factories also need water. And people are looking at hydrogen energy and using water to cool the combustion chamber. But somebody is also working on using pure water as the fuel with electrolysis on top of the combustion chamber. If you go that direction, you need. So infra. Apart from that, most important, every state and in the center, ease of doing business. Modify the rules to attract investment. ये जो पुराना सोशलिस्टिक बाबूगिरी है वो सब बंद करो. Without attracting investments and FDI, your industries cannot function. Other industries, if they have to come in, ease of doing business has to be there. You'll have to look at that LAR Act which you made in 2013, how to overcome them. A lot of that is the Land Acquisition Act. A lot of states have created their own, what to say, the land bank folders. So they are gone up, and that is how it gets attracted. So this you got to do. And if you're looking at importing your resources, there's no harm in investing at the source. You don't need to buy it off. Start investing there and invest enough to have somebody there in your board of directors, because you got to secure your resources wherever the resources are coming from. To secure your resources, like I said again, you don't need to buy off that area. You invest and help that company and you get your resource. So to conclude, the most important point, this declining China is presenting you with a choice once in a lifetime opportunity. This 10 to 20 years window that you get is once in a lifetime. Don't miss it, please, because if you miss it, you might not get it for another 100, 200 years. You missed the bus. So for that, you need a very clear vision of your core, basic and hedging strategies. भाई साहब, अपने आप को मत समझो कि आप फन्ने खा बन गए हो. Sorry. You are still a middle par and a middle par which is rising. तो अपने हद को समझ लो. So that is why you need a core, basic and hedging strategy to achieve whatever you want as Atmanirbhar Bharat in the medium to long term. Near term में तो आत्मनिर्भरता आपको मिलेगी नहीं, इतना आसान नहीं है. Medium to long term. Why I am saying it? Compromises you will have to do. So it will enable clarity in thought कि मैं क्या compromises कर सकता हूँ in the near to medium term to secure my national interests in the long term. Very, very important. ये मत सोचो कि you have become a फन्ने का, you're very big par. Sorry, you're not a big par. Yes, you are a middle par, you are a rising par. Yes, you have a space in the world because the geoeconomic, geopolitical and geostrategic environment has created that it is giving you the space to rise and everybody is looking at you. If you don't take this opportunity, forget it. Somebody else will take it and they will rise and then you'll stay where you are. And most important focus, infrastructure development, education and skill development. Most important. Your education is not necessarily in STEM, only in pure science. Applied science bhi chahiye aapko. Your fiscal policies, your trade and commerce policies have all to be modified to your strategies, the core, basic and hedging strategies to achieve what you want in the long term. Because you're looking at 23, 24 years down the line. Vision 2047 is still 20 years plus down the line. That is long term. To plan now, don't miss the opportunity, otherwise you have missed the bus. If anything else you would like to add.
No, fine. All I'd like to tell everyone is, look, this is a period, we are doing all this because this is an uncertain period which we have to go through. When you're dealing with him on the LAC, he's gone back. But he's still not, winding down his outer, peripheral activities. Internally, he is having problem, right? And what General Narayanan said, the biggest danger today is not on the LAC or the IOR, it is internal. And we are making probably a cardinal sin by asking him to invest in us. All the problems which we had earlier might revisit us. So we are going through a tough time. I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy that you have done a deal with him for patrolling. It's only patrolling deal. It's not a deal on the LAC, right? And if you read the Chinese literature, they are clear about one thing. There is no thinning out from the LAC. There is no de-escalation. There is no de-escalation. It is only disengagement at 2 points. Other points are still live. Okay? So let's not get ahead of our thing. We have to move ahead with the whole thing. Like what General Narayanan said. If we don't miss this opportunity, we are gone. And we've already lost one window for 5 years immediately after COVID. And in that window, countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Mexico, they have benefited. We have not. The thing is that hereafter, the only country which can respond to the globe in scale and size is India. And that's the opportunity you have. Everyone wants you to do. Otherwise, it will get split and go elsewhere. And we have very difficult choices to make at this point of time. Right? It's not hunky dory for us by any stretch of imagination. अगर हम सब सोचते हैं कि मोदी है तो मुमकिन है, let me assure you, I'll put it in a slightly humorous manner. Modi hai to pumpkin hai milega if we don't get our ideas right. ठीक है ना? So we should not rely on Mr. Modi to do everything for us. He's a great man. He's a very good, one of the very good prime minister we've had at the right time of our the career, the journey of India. But Indians have to do more for it, right? That's the more important thing. Okay, I've done. Can we take some questions, Rajiv?
Sure.
Yeah. First, I'll take Partha's question. He's taking us on a tangent. Sir, can you please explain Kenya Adani issue? Any connection to Peru deep water port? Inspired by this, I coined GUC, Global Uniparty Conglomerate. Yeah.
Kenya Adani issue is a separate issue. This we are dealing with essentially how to deal with the declining. Adani will be another pinprick which will keep coming at you.
It will keep coming. This is part of that story which she said, internal problems.
Those pinpricks will keep coming.
It's a created problem. Okay? It's a created problem. There are two
Peru
angles
deep water port. I'll just explain. Sorry, sir, for interrupting. The Peru deep water. Like I've always said, China is playing the long game, marathon. Like what Michael Pillsbury also he had written in his book, 100-Year Marathon. It's the Wei Chi game, the go game. The go game means you are protecting yourself, but you also place coins in the opponent's area to create problems for him to think that if I don't look after this, then something may happen. Peru is that. US has to worry. Why should I worry? Peru deep water port is nowhere near my area. I am looking at my Indian Ocean region to be able to secure it. Forget IPR. I am looking at the moment, India is looking at Indian Ocean region, period. Where does Peru come into that? Peru is a problem for the US.
उसका Monroe Doctrine है, वो कर लेगा
अपना. Yeah, it's a problem for the US. So don't link it to Adani and all these and other things. That's the Wei Chi game where he has put the coin there. He has inaugurated that. It's an open challenge to the US. Here I have created this port. The underlying threat is that my navy, once it gets out, can reach there. Can reach your backyard.
Right. Shankar sir, your talk with Snehesh Alex Philip Print was fantastic and you opened Pandora's box and clarified many doubts. Yeah, we'll leave it. Thanks. But what I want to tell you is, social media, everyone is a warrior. Everyone knows how to procure the best weapons for India. Everyone knows which are the best weapons for India. And everyone knows how to procure them by day before yesterday. Okay? Right? Everyone knows how to fight in the high altitudes. This is social media. Okay? ओ यार वो हम तो बुड्ढे हैं, वो कुर्ता पहन के टी शर्ट पहन के हम घूम रहे हैं 40 साल काटने के बाद हमें तो पता ही नहीं है कुछ. This is the general feeling which I get. Some of the replies which I get, some of the things which we get. So while I'll say thank you for your view, what we talk is sense. What we talk is after a lot of study and a lot of experience. Okay, between the two of us, we have 80 years experience in being in the forge. Remember that. Okay, now this man, Anirban Kanungo, well-meaning, he says, I'm working in EU, right? I've seen many Chinese co-workers. They're extremely hardworking, well-educated. Yes. I mean, they know their stuff and they're all very patriotic. He's given about
Remember
10
the meaning
comments.
of they are very all patriotic means whatever they are
I will come
working
to
there
that.
and learning there, they are sending that information back to the US, to
Yeah,
the Chinese. Are our people doing it for India? That's the
yeah.
question.
The next thing he says is, let me tell you, they are miles ahead of us in science and technology. Debt and GDP are controllable if you can build things in infinite quantities.
Uh, Science and technology on certain fields, I will agree. Yes, they are very
Not
good.
all.
Not all.
Incidentally, अनिर्बान उनके पास बीज नहीं है, बीज के टेक्नोलॉजी
Wonderful.
नहीं है उसके. They don't know. Okay, debt and GDP are not controllable. Incidentally,
It's gone
don't be under
beyond them.
any. It's
It's
gone
gone
beyond that.
beyond them today. They just don't know what to do because all
Yeah,
their experts are gone. So
gone. Yeah,
they
you
don't know
must
what to do.
understand. Okay, you might be in EU, but have you studied China? Have you studied China? Have you studied China from a military point of view, demographic point of view, from science and technology point of view, and economical point of view? हम तो अलग घिस रहे हैं, हमारा चप्पल घिस गया है, ये करते करते. So when we talk, remember when we talk in Gunner Shot, we do a very balanced analysis. It's not. And one. Number two, we are not going to compare India with China. We are not interested in that. Please understand, this is a security and a defense related channel. We analyze China, how to handle China, not to compete with China. To compete with China, the rest of India can do. We are not interested. We are interested in making India strong. We are interested in defeating China tomorrow. There's a difference in thinking. Okay? Your view on this?
No, very correct, sir. Science and technology, I do have my own views, not everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say AI and in quantum is doing a lot of work, primarily because he has a whole lot of data available with him as far as AI is concerned. Quantum, he's also doing, we are also doing, and both of them are, I would say, at the moment, still nebulous. The work is on. And yes, he does a lot of PR. He bloats up his achievements. His achievements, if he has achieved 20, he will say he's achieved 80. So we need to be a bit careful on that. And
Careful.
like you said, debt and GDP, it's gone out of his control.
Gone out of his control.
Gone out of his control.
Right.
He has
The
spent too
products are
much.
the products are getting higher and higher quality. Germany is now afraid that Chinese EVs will replace Mercedes Benz in Europe. I'm glad it will happen
No, the
because
basic issue is now what has happened, Anirban. That is why all the German, European companies, countries have started bringing in higher tariffs just to kill all other EVs because he's put in whole lot of money in his EV. He's subsidized it so heavily so
yeah,
that it becomes cheaper there. And that is the reason why US and now EU is also going to do it. If Germany doesn't do it, that's Germany's fault. That's Germany's fault.
yeah,
That if you increase the tariffs, that is the end of his EVs. That's the end
right,
of his EVs.
yeah. And Anirban, you have written 20 comments why China is good. It's your view. You're sitting in EU. You're looking at it from the EU angle, right? See, you're looking at two chaps who've seen China from across a fence. Okay, it's a
I
unique
handled
view.
the Chinese PLA for almost 4 years in my
Uh,
tenure in North Assam,
Okay,
Arunachal.
Do- don't think sitting in EU you can judge because 10 Chinese are loafing around you, working and patriotic. They are not patriotic. They are ultra nationalist. Their problem is ultra nationalism,
National.
and that is also blackmailed nationalism. If this chap doesn't report back and he doesn't go back, his
His
family there
family.
will get screwed. Okay, and that there's a different story in this. Anirban, please don't 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 I see. I'm not going to hereafter answer your questions. We'll leave it at that. Okay, there's another person who says, no, sir, watch the bullet train. In China, vlogs by recent Indian vloggers, lot of them are pretty packed.
The only one which is packed, Krishna, is the one which runs from Shanghai to Beijing.
Beijing, bus.
That's the only track which is packed.
बाकी सब unpacked है. Okay, you must understand, some of these vloggers from India are paid. And there are enough chaps in India who get paid by Chinese who are prepared to speak what Chinese say. Please go into their vernacular media. I do it every day. Every day I read 5 Chinese newspapers.
I'm not looking at vloggers. I gave my personal experience 2018 traveling from Chengdu to Beijing. And Chengdu from Beijing, in my coach of 72, there were only 8 people. When we got onto the platform, about 5 coaches were there. That is about 360 seats. There must have been about 50, 60 people total.
Okay.
Came in there.
So
Hardly tha platform.
Again, I must tell you, we are doing this analysis not to say China is good or bad or ugly. Whether China is good, bad or ugly or beautiful, you people go do tourism, सब कुछ कर लो. मुझे हमें कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. We are interested in the sovereignty and integrity of our country. We are interested in our power growing. How to deal with China when it comes into us.
That is why we say there is a lot to learn from China. Not just the positives, also the negatives, what you should avoid.
We have to learn. We know what China has done.
Avoid that. क्या गलती किया उसने, उसको आप मत दोहराओ. क्या सही किया उसको भी तो पकड़ो.
Yeah. So China is no longer talking about comprehensive national power. Is it because they forgot, or is it gone down deep?
See, just because they don't talk of comprehensive national power doesn't mean they're not hitting your human resource. That's how they subvert countries. They create problems. The problems are created by the human vertical in that comprehensive national power. But they're also worried because they themselves are getting hit. I don't know how much the US or West is contributing towards it. But there are a lot of things that Xi Jinping has done himself, which is contributing towards this. He can't blame it on anybody else if some lone knifer 21-year-old goes and knifes some people in the mall, or a 62-year-old man drives his, when the air show is going on, he drives his SUV over 30, 40, 100 odd people and kills 35 and 40, 50 are injured. Whom are you going to blame it for? So,
yeah. Interesting sentence structure from the bot. So that's what, a view is. Though he says, please know China is not declining. They are just growing a little slowly. They are not,
they're not growing at all. By any metrics that you say, they're not growing at all. And I do not believe they're 4.8% or anything. Anirban, I'll just tell you one thing.
No, there's no point. This fellow is going on. There's no point.
No, I'll just tell him. Okay. There is known as a container availability index. Just check China's container availability index. Anything over 50% means the container traffic is not taking place. That means those ports are duff. China, last when I checked, was running between 65 to 70. The other index that you can see is the cost of containers. If there is a more demand than supply, the cost of containers go up. Cost of containers are going down. These two factors indicate what we are saying, that production output is going down. Add these two to it.
Yeah. Right. Changing your name, but using the exact same talking point, same structure, CCP, shill bots use. Yeah, I agree with you. Completely. I mean, you see his comments, they are completely bottish.
Completely bottish.
Okay. Anirban Kanungo, what was your last good 8-hour sleep, brother? Right. Okay. Right. Yeah, Indian Army is capable enough to defend, but how can it help taking the country forward fast enough? There is no other institution that can do it.
No, the Indian Army is not there to, they can't contribute to increasing your economy or doing things in infrastructure and all. Yes, our BRO is involved in infrastructure in the border areas.
I mean, there's another question. Let me put this. our academic and political institutions are lazy and inefficient. Seems army to have the discipline
That's
and
a sweeping
dedication,
statement, I would say, for academic institutions. I would not agree to
right? So how can it be employed? Let's look at it. He's talking of how army can be employed for
Yeah,
development.
like army is being employed. He and me are from the army. We are with an institution here and looking at the development. And that development, a lot of them have a dual role also. Okay.
Mm.
My only grouse is with our companies. Our companies are not investing enough in R&D. Our companies are not. It is very easy to say, like a newspaper article came out that there is a lot of technical jobs available, and but people coming out of technical institutions are not compatible with the jobs. Whose fault is it? Have those technical companies reached out to the institutions that what kind of applied science they need? Your MTech has applied sciences available to them. How many of them have reached there? It's very easy to complain and say that the student coming out from the technical institutions or other institutions is not compatible with the jobs that are available with the companies. So I question the companies. How many of you have invested in these institutions to tell them that this is the type we need and invested there to get the people whom you want? Just holding a camp for the job camp that you have uh, does not meet your purpose. There you come and try to say, high and mighty, here your people are not good enough. Good. What have you done for it? It's also, after all, it's a nation's institution, a nation's asset, and that company is part of the nation. It is the company's asset. Yeah, big companies go and invest in Harvard and all these places. Why can't you invest here? Simple question.
Yeah, there's another issue, which another angle I like to put across. One of the things which our country has not done is utilize the veterans. Like you said, how can the army build or the armed forces build the nation? A whole lot of veterans, all officers who come out, they're the top quality. Okay, they're put through all kinds of tests to be made an officer, but when they go out, they're not used by our country. That's a huge problem for us. If every year, I mean, let me put it across, every year about 4,000 officers go out of the army, approximately 4,000. Okay, and we don't absorb them outside. When I say officers, JCOs and officers, and then men, another 30, 40,000 go out every year, and we don't use them. So this is something which we have to do. If you can tap this organized manpower, they're all leaders. Each Fauji who retires is a leader in his own right. If you can put him in leadership roles, you'll see this country changing. But unfortunately, we put all these fellows in the roles of, we put all the idiotic politicians in the roles of leaders. That's our problem.
Yeah. The
Okay.
only thing you get for these people is jobs as security guard.
Yeah.
And the kind of capability each of these individuals who's coming out, army,
Yeah.
all I'm saying from all army, navy, air force, all ranks who come out, is enormous.
Yeah.
He
Huge.
on the job training he has on so many equipment.
Yeah. 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 Okay. India needs to reform education. We use English to communicate. They have open interface to common people to influence the languages software.
It's coming slowly now. Like AI is being
It'll,
used, so our
yeah,
people
yeah,
are
yeah,
also using AI for various language and be able to talk. But
yeah.
reforming education is one thing. How do you reform? Like I made a mention, no? Like if a company says that the IT company says that the person coming out from the IT institute is not compatible to the job. Good. Have you spoken to that IT institute to say that this is the kind of teaching you need, applied science you need to do for him to be compatible to the jobs that are coming out? No. हर एक अपने
Right.
अपने ना अपना अपना जागीर बना लिया और कोस रहे हैं एक दूसरे को भाई क्रॉस कनेक्शन लेके आओ cross connection lake. And there I would say your veterans will do a lot of good
A
work
lot,
for
a whole lot.
cross connection also.
Yeah. General sir, please ignore these WhatsApp university clowns who read one random headline. That's okay. Look, Amog, let me put it. I expect that. I expect people who don't know to come to this channel, and our effort is to educate. Please see, I am not for only answering 4 questions here. We take time to sit beyond what we speak and try and answer a lot of questions. The idea is we need to dispel doubt and we need to communicate to people. We need to democratize strategy. We need to democratize security, which very few people do. That's the whole idea. You see, I view it as a effort to convince people to think right. After that, that's all the best to them. Okay. Right. Yeah, is another interesting question. Yeah. We'll take this. This is most of the generals who joined politics have given up. How can this be reversed?
Very difficult. Politics
See,
is a totally different cup of tea.
it's not only a different cup of tea, Arunachal, in our country, and the way our structure is done, and the way the armed forces and the political system during our services are, kept apart. We don't have a connect with the politicians, one. And number two, politics is money. We know that. We don't have that kind of money. Okay. So there's just no question. So to reverse it, there has to be some kind of a fusion between politics and the military. I don't, and for that, the military can't go. It's the political system which has to take. For example, uh, Prime Minister Modi has taken Mr. Shankar as the foreign minister. Could he have taken a good general as a defense minister?
Defense minister.
Right? Or for that matter, could a good general have been at least the Minister of State for Defense? And say maybe even in road transport, because we are good at infrastructure. So these are the things which we have to think. It's the political setup which has to think differently. Okay. Okay. I think we have generally, yeah, we'll answer this. Person in my age, minus 40, we are working because of Congress education. Do you think last 10 years education system produced job ready personnel?
I'll just give you one example, one issue. The with the new emerging and evolving technologies that have come up, so the education of old has to change to keep in place with the new technologies that are coming up. And the companies are also evolving with these new technologies, and so they need somebody who's ready, available to them for with these technologies, and that is where the gap is coming up. And the kind of technology shift that has taken place is enormous over these last 10-12 years. So you need to, and we are still following this old system of education. The old system of education was okay till we were looking at what they used to say, the Hindu rate of growth, and centrally controlled everything. So you did what you could do and you moved. Not today. Moment you have opened up and you're competing with the others in the international market,
change.
You got to change. And that is what we are saying, that for that change, they need to have a link with the education system to tell them that these are the changes and this is what application. See, what they are taught is pure sciences. To be frank, what are being taught in our education system is pure sciences. Applied sciences to बहुत कम ही सिखाया जाता है. Maybe an odd institution will be teaching applied sciences. So once this contact comes in, then they bring in that, okay, from this pure sciences, this is the applied sciences that can be taught. Both have their own place. You cannot shift completely from pure science to applied science. I'm sorry. It is through pure science that you get the new emerging, evolving, and disruptive technologies. So that has its own requirement. Applied science has its own requirement where the existing technology can be utilized, applied, and utilized by the companies. That is the link which is missing, is what I'm saying.
Okay. This is a question for you, General Rajiv sir. What do you
I
teach
don't
in
teach anything.
IIT?
Sir teaches. I look after with him the military projects
Yeah, we
that
had
are
both
there.
together.
One
We
topic which
teach,
he gives me essentially is on armored vehicle technology. That I
right? We teach, and we also doing some very interesting things for India. I'll leave it at that.
Indian
Okay,
military.
I'll take this fellow's question. Finally, this bot, or wherever he is. Our ammunition for our rifles and artillery is produced in India 100%.
Everything
100%. Are they of good quality? Fantastic quality.
beautiful.
Okay, comparable to USA ammunition, I can assure you they're better than USA and definitely better than Chinese ammunition.
Far
Okay,
better.
our life depends on it. समझ में आया? And incidentally, we have refused every country which has come to us for ammunition. Don't think you sitting in Germany like this chap said, ये देखो, ये सही उसने बोला. ये तुम, a person who opens his mouth too much no gets caught. This is what he has said. This Anirban is another Rati, the German street dog. ठीक है? तो थोड़ा opinions na before you talk, you should know how to talk and whom to talk to. Okay, right. Any other question? I'll not take. Yeah, there's a question. Uh, Opinion on Chinese dollar bonds issued in Saudi Arabia. We'll take it down the line. Don't be in a hurry.
It's
Let
a
the
dollar bond. It's not a yuan bond. So why are you worried
uh,
about that?
so don't worry. Nothing will happen. Right? Okay. Right.
That tells you how much faith Saudi Arabia has got on Chinese yuan.
Yeah.
So it's a Chinese bond, but it's dollar bond.
Uh, you must understand a lot of things which happen in international arena have hidden meanings. You have to see it properly, and you should not go by what the media comes out with. The media is a bloody samosa media हमारा इंडिया में. आज
A
इस
lot
साइड
of
होगा
them
वो
were
कल
telling Chinese bonds. Till the
uh,
correction was done, it's a Chinese dollar bond, not
yeah,
yuan.
yeah, right. Well, I'll take this question on again. Can better integration be done between academics and army? Yes, a lot of
Yes. Yes.
scope, lot of
A
scope,
lot of scope
and that's
because
what
they
we are
was
we are we
push.
are trying our best.
I'll add one thing, Arunachalji. There was a push done by General VK Singh at one point in time when he was the chief of getting certification for a whole lot of our courses, education certification for a whole lot of courses done are in our institutes, institutions and schools of education. And especially it was going to be beneficial for all the men, the JCOs, the other ranks, the officers. Because let's face it, when you come out onto the open street, when you're going into the job market, they look at all these certifications. He not doesn't look at on the job practice that you have. So everything was to be certified, but somewhere along the line it fell away. I think there is a need for that because there
For
is a
reviving
lot
that.
of things that you do which can be certified into the civil stream. Like let's take it, if somebody from the Indian Army or the Army Navy Air Force is doing the which used to be called the Long Defense Management Course, now SDMC, they get a certification from the Institute of Management, Association of Indian Management Council. That means it's like a management degree. It's these kind
Yeah,
of certifications, the small courses that you do, the certifications that you get, which help benefits that and makes him fit into other categories of work.
yeah. The last question. Do you think that future job geopolitics will be defined by the fact who will be Xi's successor?
Maybe the geopolitics of the Far Eastern region.
Yeah. Look,
Like I said, the
the whole
geoeconomics will get defined because before his successor comes, like I predict that there's going to be a lot of turmoil. You don't know who the next chap is. He has
yeah,
never allowed anyone to be anointed. So there is going to be a struggle. That struggle is going to have a geo-economic impact on the global economy. So if you start working to safeguard your own economies, remove your dependencies, get your supply chain hubs redefine your supply chain hubs, then there is going to be an issue as far as the Chinese are concerned. Otherwise, you're going to face a big problem. If you're, let's not forget it, our own dependencies are there quite a bit on the
Oh yeah, a lot
Chinese.
of them, lot of them, lot of them.
Yeah,
Unless you have a plan to reduce them, you are in trouble.
big trouble.
You are in big trouble. Okay, we
Not
should
more than
look.
geopolitics, I am worried about the geoeconomics part.
See, we have a lot of vulnerabilities. Please understand, it is not that because I'm talking today of China, I don't know my vulnerabilities. We are talking of China quite a bit on and on and on because we know very little about China. We think he's a big bloody tiger. वो है तो वो है ना वो टाइगर और उसके बीच में क्या था कल दिखाया मैंने. He's like a reptile. So we should understand what he is and then deal with him. And we should understand what we are and then deal with the whole story. Okay.
I would only add
Uh,
one thing. China has not reached the level of USA, where we look at the future of geopolitics of the globe based on who the president of USA is going to be.
yeah.
China has
Even
not
America
reached that.
and Chinese also, see, let me give you what he said is a fantastic thing. You open New York Times today, okay, or Washington Post, you will find one article of China maybe. 80% of their articles are of USA. 80%. You open South China Morning Post and you open Guancha. 70% of their articles are of USA. वो उधर देख रहा है. He is not talking of himself. Okay? So please understand where each country, you should, if you read, मोटा मोटा देखोगे ना पता चल जाता है वो कितने खड्डे में है. Okay. Last, Bharat, thanks for becoming a member. And also Mavi, thanks for becoming a member. Right? Honored. And with this, we'll end. Tomorrow, I'm going to dissect the demographics of China. A lot of people have been asking demographics redefine karo, and I'm doing it because Xi Jinping has finally admitted that China is having a major decline. So tomorrow evening, join me for demographics. Till then, thank you. And thanks a lot, Rajiv, for this
Thank you,
fantastic
sir.
presentation and the way we've handled all these questions. Thanks a lot. See you. Good evening and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.